Hello you guys, welcome back to the vlog. It has been a second since I have done a book video, and that's partially because I have been in a bit of a reading slump and partially because I feel like my life has been turned upside down recently and there's just been so many things happening and I honestly have not had time to read. So I'm excited to get into some reading. I'm gonna tell you guys about the books that I'm currently in the middle of because I started 2 books and I feel like I'm a decent portion of the way through both of them, but I feel like I'm far enough away from finishing either of them that we have a lot of reading to do. So the first one that I'm actively reading is called What We Did to Survive by Megan Lally. Let me actually look up synopses for these. This one I think is a YA book. It's only 279 pages, which I feel like is like a pretty quick read. So this one says, a vacation in paradise turns deadly when 14 sailing charter hits stormy seas. Hannah is having an incredible spring break. A week at a resort in Mexico with her best friend Emmy and her family is perfect for de-stressing from senior year, even if it's awkward being around Emmy's older brother Jackson, who she's had a crush on for as long as she can remember. Still, the beach is gorgeous. So is the guy they meet in the surf. Except Hannah is now the third wheel in Emmy's vacation romance. Eager to impress Emmy, her wealthy new boyfriend charters a private sailboat to make the most of their last day in paradise, and Hannah and Jackson are invited along. As the clouds roll in and the skies darken, their boat is the only one leaving the marina, and the further they get into the open water, the more unsettled Hannah becomes. A storm is brewing on board that's as deadly as the one racing toward them. Forget surviving graduation. Who will make it back to land alive? I've seen this one get like decent reviews. It has an average of 3.67 stars. Right now where I'm at in the book is I'm basically at the point where they're on this boat and they're in the water with the captain. And definitely our main character Hannah is kind of feeling unsettled, but she's also kind of feeling unsettled about the relationship with her best friend, mostly because of this guy that they met that was like randomly in the surf. So I'm intrigued to see how this turns out because it is supposed to be a thriller, so I can't imagine it's just about surviving in the ocean, so we'll see. And then the second book that I'm reading is Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll, and that one is like, I don't really want to call it historical fiction because it's definitely more of like a thriller mystery type novel, but it's basically about Ted Bundy's killings except from the point of view from the victims, and also none of the victims are like their real names, so they're all based off of the real victims but they're not the real people. And that's why I say it's like almost historical fiction-y in the sense that it is the real scenario, it's just not the real scenario. Does that make sense? Like all of the information is correct but the names are different and like some details are different. So far that one's been interesting. I kind of put that one on the back burner because I just felt like it was putting me into a little bit of a slump. The beginning, like maybe 10%, was so interesting and so fast-paced, and I do really love the author's writing, but I thought that it would be more of a thriller novel, and it's less of a thriller novel. And just like the beginning was thrillery, but then like after that, I don't know, just kind of the pacing halted a little bit, and so I really want to get back into it, but I feel like it's not my main book right now, or at least it's not if I felt like I was in a reading slump. So I do want to get back to it. I've been wanting to read it this year, but I just don't want to put myself into a reading slump when I'm already in a reading slump, or like a deeper reading slump, I guess. So that's why we're going to focus on What We Did to Survive. So I'm gonna read for a little bit. It's only like almost 9 o'clock. So I think I want to read for a little while and then I will read to go to bed. I've been actively trying to read to go to bed again lately because for like maybe a month I was just watching TV to go to bed instead. I always need something to go to bed because I can't just like go to bed in silence, but usually reading is like the best case scenario for me because it really helps my brain just like calm down enough before bed. But I just like could not get into a book. So I'm excited to be back here in this space where I feel like I can read again, and I'm excited to read some books with you guys. So today is Tuesday. I want to see how much we can read within the next few days and hopefully into the weekend as well. So I'm just gonna take you guys along as long as I can for at least these 2 books, and then maybe we'll pick up another book depending on how quickly we're able to read, because again, it's been a second and I just feel like I haven't really been dedicating that time as I normally do. But let's start with this book and get a little bit further in. We are approximately 20% of the way through, so I feel like just past 20% of the way through actually. We have just under 5 hours left of the book. So again, this one is a slightly shorter book, which is nice, and I think will just help with keeping that pacing and help me get out of the slump faster, ideally. Although I'm thinking now I should have maybe picked a higher rated book, but sometimes books are highly rated and then I don't rate them very highly. Like I kind of felt that way about Yesteryear a little bit, where like I felt like everybody and their mother was talking about it and then I was disappointed. Maybe it's good that this one's just like a 3.6. Like I feel like that's a very average rating, like solid book. 3 stars is fantastic. I think that like a 3-star book is definitely something that I would still recommend to people. So I'm excited for this one and let's get into it. Hello you guys, it is 6:15 this morning. I made it to 30% of the way through the book, so not too much further in the story, but I will say it is picking up really, really quickly. I think we're in a situation where someone's already been murdered, which is crazy to be in this situation so early on in a book. I don't even think I'm 100 pages in, but again, this is a much shorter book where it's like only 200-ish pages, so it does make sense that this much is happening so quickly. I like how fast-paced it is, honestly. I feel like it doesn't need all of the like description, and it's doing what it needs to do, and sometimes like you just want a fast-paced palette cleanser, and that's exactly what this is, so I'm really enjoying it. It is still taking me longer than I thought because I thought I would have more time, but my days have just been really busy. Like on Wednesday I had to go help a friend with something, so that took up the entirety of my after work day, and I didn't get home until 10 p.m. Today I do have some plans, so I'm hoping to be able to read between them, but if not, or I will probably be able to a little bit here and there, but more than likely what I'll end up doing is doing a bunch of reading on the weekend as usual. That's like my normal schedule, I suppose, when I am reading more. There's about 4 hours left of this book, and then I'll probably go back into Bright Young Women. I initially thought that I was going to go back and forth between the two, but I think it's better to just pause that one and focus in on this one. That's my update for now. I'm really enjoying it, and hopefully I have some more updates for you guys soon. But yeah, everything is like picking up. I would say maybe like 10% of the way through was just like the background information. About 20% of the way through, a lot of things started happening, and 30% through is like when the chaos started. So again, I feel like that's pretty fast paced and I'm enjoying it. Hello you guys, it's Saturday and I've just been reading What We Did to Survive a little bit more. I'm about 50% of the way through the book, and I wanted to give you guys a couple of updates because some of the stuff in this book is like a little bit annoying randomly. I feel like one of our characters is kind of perceived to be somebody who's like not very smart. It's interesting because there's like a situation on board of this ship where essentially they're lost at sea, which is what we know from the back of the book, and this girl who is not smart is the one who seems to be able to like negotiate things with somebody else who is a little bit more problematic, for lack of a better word, and the people who are smarter are the ones who are like not negotiating, and they're just outwardly saying whatever it is. So like the guy who's being problematic will do something problematic, and then the other people will just be like, well, why should we trust you? Or we're not gonna stand behind your decision on XYZ thing, we're just going to tell the police when we get to shore. And if you're stuck on a boat, wouldn't you think that you would want to just like appease that person no matter what your actual thoughts are, so that you could just get off safely eventually and like all work together? And I feel like that's what the other girl is doing, but she's being perceived as like an idiot essentially. Like it's just so strange, and I don't know if it's because this is a bit more of like a YA novel. It kind of is feeling a little irritating because it's happening over and over and over again where they're just not listening to this girl, and then in our main character's thoughts, she's like, why does my best friend not have my back? And it's like, girl, it's because she's trying to survive. Like she doesn't actually not have your back, she just wants us all to survive. Anyway, it's very interesting. So I'm gonna continue reading. I have approximately, let's see, I'm on chapter 12, like 3 to 3.5 hours left of the book. I thought that I was closer to the halfway point earlier, but I forgot that it's not 200 pages, it's like 260 pages in this book. So I am now 50% of the way through, and I am overall enjoying it despite those like annoying pieces that I just mentioned. I think that it's super fast paced and like kind of the perfect palette cleanser, and it's sort of like a thriller but in a very different way, and I really enjoy that. Like it's thrilling, but it's not like horror or like murder. I don't know, it's interesting. It's very different and unique, and I like that. I've never read a book about people being lost at sea before, so I'm enjoying it. So I'm gonna go back over to the couch. I just came over here to give you guys the update because I'm doing some laundry, so sorry if you can hear that, but I'm gonna pop back over to the couch, read some more, and I have a yoga class today at 3, and then when we're back from that, we'll do some more reading. I think I could probably finish this book today, which would be amazing because then I can focus on my other book tomorrow. Okay, so we are reading What We Did to Survive still, and I'm now about 65% of the way through. I have roughly 2 hours left of the book. The thing that I was explaining to you guys yesterday finally got resolved. thankfully. Like, there was a confrontation between our characters explaining the situation, and I was like, I don't know how we've not noticed this before, but I'm glad that we've moved past it. So our character now knows what our other character is doing. On top of it, there's like a little mini romance in this book, and the romance piece of the book is like really exploding. So for the last like maybe 15%, we've been talking exclusively about that, which is actually kind of fun because I haven't really read a romance in a while, and it's kind of fun to have something a little exciting like that, like cutesy. It's very YA, so they're like sharing a kiss. So I'm enjoying it. I like that part of it, which I think normally if I had been reading romances, I probably wouldn't like it. A lot of the stuff moves pretty fast because of how few pages there are in this book, but it's good. I like it. So I'm gonna keep reading. I think I can finish this one today because there's only 2 hours left. I have a yoga class to go to at 9:30. It's only 7:30. So maybe I'll read for like an hour, start to get ready, and then read for 1 more hour when I get back, something along those lines. And then I probably will revisit Bright Young Women after that and finally finish that book too. And I also got, I forgot that I had it, but I got the Goldfinch back on Libby as like an audiobook, so I can maybe finish that one at some point. I think I have, let's see, I'm 72% of the way, but that means I have 9.5 hours left of listening time, which is a lot. So I'll probably listen on 2 times speed and hopefully finish within the next few days. But I'm gonna be honest, I like just don't reach for it. So it probably won't end up in this video, but one day I will finish that book. I just wanna know how it ends. I can already like gather how it's going to progress, but that's the whole point of the story, is listening to how he gets to the place that he ends up. Yeah, but I don't know why. It's just like, it's just, the book is just not for me. It's way too long, but it's good at the same time. So I like go between like, I don't love it and I do love it. It doesn't make any sense, but anyway, let's keep reading this book. I'm gonna read for about an hour before I get ready, and we'll finish it today. Hello you guys, I wanted to update you because last night I finished What We Did to Survive by Megan Lally, and I think I'm gonna give this one 4 stars. I really liked this book, and I feel like it's very unique in the sense that I've never really read a book where there is someone who's dangerous in this story, but mostly they're up against nature in general. It's basically them being on a boat that's lost at sea and figuring out what to do from there. There was a twist toward the end, and honestly the way that it was executed was so fantastic. I actually was getting like irritated with a certain situation, and then come to find out it was part of the twist. And I was just like, I cannot believe I didn't see it coming, honestly. So it was so good. I really liked that part. And I think before that, it just kind of felt like, I don't know, a different type of thriller that maybe I wouldn't normally read. But for this one in particular, I don't know, something about the twist is what bumped it up to a 4 star. So I think before that, I probably would have rated it a 3. Yeah, I really liked it, and it kind of broke my heart at the very end, I'm not gonna lie. It was that good toward the end, but I recommend it. If you're looking for a bit of a palate cleanser, it's not like the best book in the entire world, like 5-star must read, but I really do think that it was what it needed to be, and it's short and sweet. It's under 300 pages, and it does give you like, there were moments where I was like actually grossed out or scared, or like just a lot of emotion, and I feel like for such a short story, being able to create that much emotion in somebody, you have to be a really good writer. So I really liked it, and I'm giving it 4 stars. I think I'm gonna go back to reading Bright Young Women. I want to finish this one soon. I don't remember where exactly I am. I don't know if this bookmark is correct or if what my Kindle is at is correct, but I am roughly 200 pages in, and there are 370 or so pages. So only like 170 pages left to go. So I think I could probably read this within a couple of hours. That being said, I don't know if I will get to those couple of hours today, but I'm gonna try my best. I have quite a few things that I need to do that I haven't gotten to because of like the weekend ended up a little bit more packed than I thought, but I'm hoping to get to it. So anyway, highly recommend this. I really think that if you guys are looking for something different, a little bit more spooky, and something that's a bit of a palate cleanser, this was definitely it for me, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm excited to finish Bright Young Women and then go on to whatever our 3rd book will be. I feel like it's been a while since I finished a book, so it also just feels nice to complete something, because I think this is the first book that I read in the entirety of June, and I've just been like so busy and stressed out and all of the above that it's been hard for me to read. So I'm glad that finally finally, we read a book, thank God, and we're gonna complete the next one, and I'll let you guys know along the way how I'm liking it. Hello you guys, I feel like you're gonna fall. I just took a shower and I'm kind of getting ready for bed, but I wanted to update you on Bright Young Women. You know, initially I felt like this book was a little bit more of like a mystery thriller, and then I was like, I don't really know what direction that this book is going in, but I really do feel like it's more leaning historical fiction in the sense that it's so much more centered around the victims and like not just like what they do after, but like also what happens before, and like I don't know, just like so much about them as people and like kind of showcasing that these people are real people, if that makes any sense. And in a way, because of the way that the book was set up, I think that started to kind of like make me drop off from wanting to read the book. But now that I know what to expect, I'm excited again. So I'm glad that I'm revisiting the book. I'm currently, let me just check to see because I don't remember. I stopped reading this morning. I'm 65% of the way through the book. So I have about 3.5 hours left of reading. So I'm hoping to finish within the next like day or so. And then I also continued to listen to The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. That one's been taking me a really long time, but I'm finally getting back to it. I got it re-added to Libby because basically I've been going in like cycles of it being added back whenever it's available. So I have 8 hours left, which would be like, I don't know, like 5 hours at 1.5 times speed. So I'm hoping to also finish that soon too. I don't know what it is about this book. Like I'm not that interested in it, but I am at the same time. So I just want to finish it so that I can say that I've accomplished it and actually finished it. But that's just like a side quest at this point. So my main book is this one, and I'm excited to see what we read after this because I honestly have no idea what I'm in the mood for, but I am liking it and I'm glad that we're back because I think it was kind of a lull for me because I didn't know what to expect from it. But again, now that I know what to expect, I'm liking it a lot more. So going to read some more tonight, hopefully read some more in the morning. I think between tonight and tomorrow morning, I could in theory finish it, but I don't want to make myself promises I can't keep. So I'm hoping that sometime this week we can start a new book. I don't know, but I'll give you all my thoughts once I'm done with this one. It's been really, really interesting. I can't really tell you guys much about it because it's just like post murder, I guess. And there's just like so many pieces and like important aspects of each of these characters, but like you have to discover them along the way. And if I said what they were, then I think that a lot of it would be spoiled because like there's things that are clicking now that happened in like the first chapter or so, or like maybe the first 2 chapters, and it's just now clicking 65% of the way through. So I don't want to risk spoiling anything, but it is pretty good. Just don't go into it thinking that it's a thriller. It's more just like centered around the victims and like who the people are. And I guess like, I don't want to say victimhood because it's not about victimhood. It's more about like, again, remembering that we should be talking about the victims and the victims are like real people rather than like putting a murderer on a pedestal, which I think is a really interesting idea and concept, especially within the true crime world. So anyway, those are my thoughts. So let's get back to some reading. Good morning, you guys. Today is Friday and I wanted to update you on my book, Bright Young Women. I'm almost finished with it and I am thrilled to be almost finished with it. Something interesting about this book, I'm about 82% of the way through. I think on the Kindle it shows chapter numbers. So there's 38 chapters and I'm on 29. So I have 9 chapters left. Did I do my math right? Actually, I have 10 left because you have to include 29. So anyway, 10 chapters left. The book has been really good. Toward the end, I feel like the chapters are getting shorter and shorter. It's very interesting because toward the end as well, there's like this love interest that I feel like is there in the story. And then all of a sudden it's completely different. And it's so interesting because I really felt like they were guiding us in a direction where this love story was going to come true. And I was like actually really rooting for these characters, but they never explicitly said anything about a love interest either. So like, I guess it was just, I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels like there was some sort of like interest between these 2 characters, but it's just very fascinating that, I don't know, that this whole situation happened essentially. So that was really interesting. And I really enjoy when they do a little bit of a switch up instead of it being like, oh, I saw that coming from a mile away. Starting from about 70% onward, we've been, so basically the last 10-12%, we've been mostly talking about the trial, which has also been extremely interesting. Like understanding how this character character, which is essentially Ted Bundy, which, side note, I love that she never actually gives this person a name. She just keeps calling him the defendant. And I love that because, again, this whole story is all about how it's about the victims and not about the murderer, because there's so much press and like there's so many books and so much media surrounding the murderer and like putting him on this pedestal essentially. And so they basically strip that away and they're like, no, he's the defendant and the victims all get names, which is amazing. So anyway, the defendant is trying to speak for himself during court, and he's clearly only wanting to relive the murders. And it's so fascinating the way that it's written, because it feels like you're there. You feel super like creeped out, and I don't know, just something about Jessica Knoll's writing. I think this book in general was a tad slower, and I don't think it's her fault. I think it's just like, well, the pacing could have been a little bit better, but I do think that it's partially just like what this book is supposed to be about. But I don't know, just something about her writing, like it really makes you feel like you're there in the courtroom with everybody. And I love when authors can write with so much in their writing that you feel that way. So I've been absolutely loving it. I'm so glad that I revisited it, because I think that I was just like in a bit of a slump, and just like so many things were pretty chaotic for me. And so I just wanted to like take a second to come back to reading and like have a chance to actually sit down and read, because I just haven't had a chance to do that in a really long time. In the whole month of June, I only read one book. So this was technically a book that I was supposed to have finished in May, and I just never got around to it. So we're finishing it now. I actually don't know what I want to read after this though, because I have a couple of books that I was able to download. So let's just like quickly look through. I don't know really what I'm in the mood for, because I feel like I've been reading a lot of more like thrillery type novels, but I could be down for something like a romance maybe. I currently have on my Kindle ready and like downloaded Phoebe Berman's Gonna Lose It, The Burning Side, which is a book by Sarah DeMoff, and she had her debut novel last year, I believe, which was The Bright Years, and I loved that book. Mad Mabel, I've just heard a million things about it, and I also have Alchemy of Secrets. So all four of those I have ready to go downloaded that I could pick up. And then I have a bunch of other books, like a Frida McFadden book. I have a lot of old Colleen Hoover books that I just like, well, when I say a lot, I actually have two, but two Colleen Hoover books that I just never got around to reading. And truthfully, I have a really tough time with Colleen Hoover books, because I just feel like over time I have realized how much I don't really love some of the content that's in them, and so I don't really want to support Colleen Hoover necessarily. However, I already own the books, and so part of me is like, just read them to get them off of the TBR and know what the content was, because at one point I was intrigued, but I think it was mostly just because I was wanting to read her whole backlist. Anyway, there was a specific book by Colleen Hoover. I wish I could remember what it was called, but I read it, and like the first scene was so aggressive. It was like literally page 1, and I had read it on my Kindle, so I didn't see that there was like any kind of trigger warning. And I'm not usually triggered by much in books, but oh my God, it was terrible. Hold on, I have to find what it was. Too Late by Colleen Hoover. I couldn't even rate that book. It was so aggressive, and like someone literally on page 1 was being assaulted, and it was like a lot for me. Anyway, that's sort of where my thoughts are on Colleen Hoover, but we'll see. If you guys see me reading a Colleen Hoover book, just know that it's because I already own the books, and I only have 2 left. So those are books that we could get out of the way. I also have a Vari McFarlane book. So I have a couple of really good books. I have like more of a priority TBR, and then I have an actual like list of books that I've just been meaning to get to type of TBR on my Kindle. And I have an actual like little TBR section of physical books as well. So I have a lot of books to choose between. I have a feeling we'll choose between one of those 4 that I mentioned at the beginning, like The Burning Side, Mad Mabel, those ones. So it just depends on what mood we're in. I could also be in the mood for a fantasy, because I haven't read a fantasy in a really long time. So that could be interesting. We shall see. So I'll keep you guys updated once I get there, but I have about an hour and a half left of my book. I only have about 30 minutes until I have to leave the house. So unfortunately, I probably won't get to it right this second, but I do hope to finish this by the end of today. So that's where we're at. I actually do have to start getting ready now that I think about it out loud, because it is already 9 o'clock and I have to leave by 9:30, not be getting ready by 9:30. And I do that every time, and that's how I always end up late. So let me actually get ready, and then if we have more time to read, then we will. But either way, I'll keep you updated along the way. That was a really long update, but I'm excited to read some more, and I'm excited that I'm in the reading mood again. Hello you guys, I just wanted to update you because I finally finished Bright Young Women. I've been kind of working on this one for a little bit, but I did take a pause from it to read the other book that we read in this vlog, so it's just taken some time, but I do think I want to give it maybe a 4-star. I think it was really fantastic. I like the way that they talked about the victims in the story and did not really harp on the defendant, is what they call him. Like, they don't even give him a name, and I really love that. It doesn't feel so much of like another retelling of the Ted Bundy murders, and instead it feels like more about victim advocacy and how the stories of each of these victims are so important, and how they're real people. They're not just like a number for a serial killer, if that makes sense. So I feel like so much of that was so important to read about and very fascinating in general. So I really liked it. I don't want to, I mean, like, it's hard because I don't know if I would spoil something because it is about the Ted Bundy murders, but the way that it flows through the book is very interesting. I think the pacing is a little wonky at times. Like, we really get deep into the story of these characters, in particular two people, Ruth and Pamela. Pamela is somebody who survives, and Ruth is somebody who ultimately is murdered, which we know very early on. And we see the progression of these people, but again, we like see their life as well. So it's not just surrounded around their time with the defendant, but it's about who they were as people. There's only one victim, which was a 12-year-old girl, and her name is the same name as like the real victim in real life. Everyone else was fictionalized or like maybe mashed into a couple of people. Like, I think there's technically 2 people who survived. Well, there are many people who survived the sorority house slaying part of his murders, but specifically there are 2 people that the author kind of like meshed into one, being Pamela. So it was just interesting to see how they were able to take all of the real details and mush it into what became Bright Young Women, and it was fantastic. Like, the storytelling was so good. Jessica Knoll's writing is so amazing and like just sucks you in, makes you want to keep reading, makes it so you can just binge a chapter that's like 80 pages long. Like, truly the first chapter is very long, but you don't even feel it because her writing is just that good. So I think I would want to pick up some more books by Jessica Knoll. I just feel like I've heard so much about this one that when I had gotten it a while back, I probably bought it like a year or 2 ago at this point, but it was randomly like $2 on the Kindle store. So I've had it on my Kindle for a really long time, and I'm glad that I finally got to it because I think it's a really good one. And again, like, a very important story to like better understand how the story has been told thus far and why it's important to tell the story sort of this way, where we focus in on the victims. If there's a way to consume true crime, I would say I prefer this way, where we're not fascinated by what a murderer does and what his story is, but instead what each of these girls or women have experienced and what their stories are, because that's very important. So I really enjoyed it. I also have been listening to The Goldfinch, and I am so much closer to finishing. I think I have probably like 3-ish hours of listening time. So let's see, I have 5 hours and 20 minutes left, but at 2 times speed, just over 2.5 hours actually. I should in theory be able to get done with this book soon. And this is another book that I've, technically speaking, been reading for a very long time. I think I thought that I was gonna get through it a lot faster, and I was very fascinated by the book, but I could tell that because it was so long, it was gonna put me in a slump. I think I'm just not into Pulitzer Prize winners, which is a crazy thing to say, but I didn't know, because like, to me, I'm like, oh, if a book has won an award, that means it's a fantastic book, which this book is. But I didn't know that a Pulitzer Prize winner specifically means that it tells a story about somebody's holistic life, essentially, from what I understand. And this truly does. Like, it's from start to finish, nearly from birth all the way to like this one stage that he's in his life. And it's kind of this question of like, how did he even get here? And the story is so fascinating, but there's no plot to it. It's purely vibes. It's purely his story and like him retelling his life. And so in a way, it feels like you're at grandpa's house or uncle's house and he's like telling you everything, which isn't a bad thing, but it's not something that I'm like driven to want to read necessarily. So I think it was something that was always going to have to be passive for me. I also tried reading a while back All the Light We Cannot See, which reminds me a lot of this in the sense of like also Pulitzer Prize winner, also something that I was just like, I don't know if I want to continue on this route. So I just think that I would really have to like give some more thought to reading a book like that, because it kind of feels a little bit like a chore, even though the book is good. Like, I can't in good conscience rate it more than a 3, because it's like, the book is good, but like It's taking me months and months to read it. I'm like forgetting, like there's too much detail. It's like nearly 800 pages and I just feel like it didn't need to be this long. I'm trying to decide which book I want to read next as like an actual book. So I have 4 on my Kindle that I'm between. I have a lot more on this Kindle, but these are the 4 that I'm sort of between right now. All of them, like, I probably should read the synopsis for so that I can like see which one is most intriguing, but Mad Mabel is one. Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber is another one. The Burning Side by Sarah DeMoff. And then last one is Phoebe Berman's Gonna Lose It, which I think is like a story about a girl who wants to lose her virginity, but she has sex anxiety or something like that. I don't know. It sounds interesting. I feel like I've heard a lot of people talk about it, but I think part of it is because Brooke Averick is an influencer, and so an influencer writing a book is naturally going to get a lot of attention, of course. So I'm going to look up some synopses. I'm going to try to figure out which book I want to read, and then we'll pick that one up. And I'm going to try to do a ton of reading today. I feel like it would be really fun to just have like a pure reading day. I've been having a lot of stuff happening in my life lately, and then when all of that dust settled, I feel like I was able to say yes to a lot more social plans. And so now I'm finally back into like, okay, we can create a routine and I can get back into some reading, doing my workouts, that kind of thing. And I'm excited to spend the day reading. So that's what we're gonna do. It's only 9 a.m. I do have a few chores to do, and I also have a few things to like return and that kind of thing. So I will probably go off and do that, but I will probably listen to my audiobook while I'm doing that and then come back and do the reading. Hello you guys, welcome back. I wanted to update you. I don't remember if I told you guys what book I decided I was going to start, but I was between a couple of different books and I ultimately decided to start Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber, and I'm very excited about this one. I'm already 10% of the way through. I feel like at first, like the very first chapter was a little confusing, I guess. So I was like, I don't really know what I'm getting into. And at first I started kind of getting hung up on it. So I probably could have been through a little bit further at this point, but I took a break from it just because I'm so nervous to get back into a slump. But I picked it back up and now I get what's happening and I'm really excited about it. So basically we're following our main character Holland, and she's taking this, well, it kind of goes between different chapters. So there's just like regular chapters, and then there's chapters where she's taking this folklore class. And that was where I got a little bit confused because the very first chapter is her going into this folklore class, but it's like magical. So it's a fantasy world, but set in LA. So it's an urban fantasy type story, which is very exciting because I don't think I've ever read an urban fantasy. And I really like when some books are set in LA just because I obviously know all of the things that they're talking about. And I really love to like really envision what's going on and like where the characters are. So I've been really enjoying that part of it too. Although so far I do wish that there was like a little bit more of like the LA stuff, but it is what it is. So anyway, our main character goes into this classroom and she learns about all of these different myths, and eventually she finds out that one of them is actually true. So essentially she can go up and find this person, and the person will be able to tell her when she's going to die. So she's on a date, she finds the person and she's like, let's go ask. Now a bunch of like weird stuff is happening, and that's sort of where I am. That's the first 10% or so. I feel like all of that is from the back of the book, so none of that is a spoiler, but the back of the book says when she's gonna die, but we haven't heard that in the book yet. And also something else is happening that like other myths seem to be kind of coming true aside from just the first one about the death stuff. So really enjoying it. I was nervous to jump into a fantasy world. I also think that this is supposed to be a series, which is interesting, but I have no idea when the second book is going to come out. But I've been wanting to read this one for a while, and I didn't even realize until I was looking in my notebook over here that this is part of my 26 and 26. So I'm also knocking one of those off of the list, which now I'm thinking about it. Let's see how many I have left. Okay, so after this one, I'll have 14 books left on my 26 and 26. So I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job for being halfway through the year, right? Because half would be 13. So this is actually perfect. So I'm excited to keep reading. I'm excited to dive in a little bit more. And I do feel like this one is just such an easy read. So far the chapters have been really short. I've been able to just like speed through things. So I'm really enjoying it a lot and I'm excited to keep reading. I do have work today, but I'm hoping to read as much as I possibly can on like my lunch break and after work and all that kind of stuff. So I'll certainly keep you guys posted, because again, I feel like this one could be a bingeable one. So far from like the first 10%, I feel like that flew by incredibly quickly. So I'm very excited about it. Okay, I'm now about 40% of the way through Alchemy of Secrets and I'm absolutely loving it. I feel like I haven't felt this way about a book in a really long time, so I'm really happy to just be like thrilled to read. I've been talking about how I've been in a slump for a very long time, and that's happened over the course of like this entire year and maybe even toward the end of last year. So just feel like, I don't know, something about the books that have been produced lately or like whatever has been capturing my attention. I feel like books have been sort of written faster or maybe even edited faster, and I just feel like I haven't found the type of books that I first found when I fell in love with reading. So it's been a little bit of a struggle, but I'm really enjoying this one. There's a little bit of a romance that I think is starting to brew in here, and I did read in the synopsis that there was potentially going to be a romance, but it's finally happening and I'm pretty excited about it. I actually can see it. I do think that there's some verbiage or like certain types of things that some of the characters do that I personally don't love in like romanticies or like romance novels, like certain overly manly type phrasing or like the way that they will act sometimes and like very protective. Like sometimes I don't personally like that, but I do enjoy it for what's happening in this book, and because it's not just like a regular romance and it's like more of an urban fantasy, I feel like it makes sense. I'm also really enjoying all the little bits and pieces of LA that we're seeing. Like they talked about going to the reservoir, and then they talked about Echo Park, and they've talked about Griffith. So like there's a bunch of like little snippets of things of like places that I go, like the reservoir for example, where I run there all the time, and she was talking about like wanting to run there and stuff like that. So it's kind of fun to read about that in a book. So we're gonna get to some more. I have I think like 4 or 5 hours left of this book to read, so I will probably end up finishing it tomorrow more than likely, but I'm going to try to read as much as possible tonight. It's only 7:30 right now, so I have a couple of hours before I go to bed. So I think I could read at least half of what's left, maybe get to like 60 to 70% of the way through the book, and then finish it tomorrow. So that's the plan. Let's keep reading and I will keep you guys updated. Okay, you guys, I ended up being able to pick up Alchemy of Secrets as an audiobook on Libby because they just happened to have it available, and I ended up finishing it just now, and I don't know what I want to rate it yet. I'm kind of between 3 and 4 stars, and I'm leaning toward 3. It was very interesting, and I just thought that this book would be more of a romantasy, but it turned out to be just purely like, there's, I guess, a couple of romantic elements, but not romantasy in the way that I feel like people had talked about it online or the way that it seemed to be on Goodreads. I also just kind of felt like, I don't know, some of the like ending pieces left me a little bit like feeling like, oh, that was it, instead of excited or like everything buttoned up in a way. And it just felt like there were elements that one person would tell our main character something, and then it would turn out that that was just like completely wrong, and it wasn't even for any explanation or misunderstanding or anything. It would just literally be like, oh well, they lied. But that happened a couple of times, and I don't know, I just felt like I wasn't really tied to a lot of the characters. There was also a character in this book that we actually never met, so we just like heard so much about that person. And in some way I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like for how long this book was, which it wasn't like super long, but it wasn't under 300 pages either. And so for the length that it was, I expect a little bit more detail or like being able to meet those other people, or I don't know, just something felt like it was missing from this book. It just didn't really feel like it really captured me all that much. So I think it could have potential for being amazing, but it was like okay, and I think that people would have a lot of fun with it. I like the way that Stephanie Garber writes, and I think a lot of her books are really fun and kind of fantastical in the same way. I guess it did remind me a lot of Caraval, which makes sense, but I don't know, something about Caraval, like it just like I was tied to the characters more. I guess now that I'm comparing them, it kind of had the same sensation of like someone almost like lying about something so that you think that one thing is true and then actually something else is true. So maybe that is just like a twist that Stephanie Garber tends to use. I don't really know. But anyway, I think with all of that and like just getting my thoughts out there, I think I'm gonna end up rating this one 3 stars. Again, I think it's still good and I think that I would recommend it, but I wouldn't go into it thinking that it's a romantasy, and I would just go into it knowing that it's like, if you did not like Caraval, then you probably won't like this one, but if you liked that one a lot, then you probably will like this one. So I would still recommend it, but it's not like a 5-star for me either. I feel like I'm back into a little bit more of a reading groove, which is very, very exciting, and I'm excited to see what other books that we read. I was trying to listen to more of The Goldfinch, but unfortunately I have like 2 hours of listening time left and I lost it off of the Libby app, so I'm waiting for it to come back around. So I'll have to get to that one in another video at some point in the future, but that is all I have for now. So thank you guys so much for being here and watching and reading with me. Let me know if you've read any of these books or what you guys are reading, or if you've been wanting to read any of these books, which ones you're most intrigued by. And I hope that some of my ratings and thoughts on these books have helped you guys decide on what you want to read too. So thank you guys again so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.